This is the I Read Comic Books podcast, and I am your host, not Mike Rapin. I am Daniel Martinez, and this week I'm joined by two new chapters of your favorite manga, Kait Lamphere.
Hello.
And Paloma.
Hello, hello, hello.
On today's episode, we will be talking about some exciting stuff, including a lot of your favorite manga apps. But let's go into the two legally mandated questions that I am obligated to as the fill-in host. Mike went off to look for the Allspark or something. I'm not really sure what he's doing, so we are in charge this week.
Saving the world. Yep.
So let's get started. Kait, how are you? How have comic books been?
I've been good. I might have watched the new Red, White, and Royal Blue movie maybe 5 times in the last 8 days that it's been out. So we need to wrap this up real quick so I can add one more to my watch list. Really enjoying that adaptation. Speaking of adaptations, I read Fangirl Volume 3 by Rainbow Rowell and adapted by Gabby Nam. This is a manga-style adaptation of Rowell's novel by the same name. It's a YA novel originally, and then they adapted it to comics. And I love that fact because that doesn't happen a whole lot. Normally, it's movies or going the opposite direction, comics to books. So this series, Fangirl, the plan is for it to be adapted into 4 volumes. And so I've read the first 2 volumes a few times, and volume 3 came out last week. And I have read that since then. And I think that the way that this has been adapted is great. Like, the pacing is really good. I really enjoy all of the characters in this story, and they're kind of all a little sarcastic. And I love that you can see them roll their eyes instead of just reading about it. This story is about a girl named Kath who's just entering college, and she's a writing major, but she's only ever written fan fiction before. And in the story, the story that she's writing fan fiction about is kind of a boy goes to magic school, falls in love with his nemesis there, and it's her fan fiction, at least version of it, is a love story. But this character Kath is struggling with like her sick dad at home, this guy that she's getting a crush on, her roommate who's becoming, whether or not her roommate is becoming her friend or not, or if she's just being nice, that early college concern. And also her twin sister is becoming more independent, whereas Kath is like, no, wait, I need you. So I feel like volume 3 is kind of everything that Kath has been worrying about kind of comes to a head in this volume, and she's starting to have to deal with these things and figuring out what these new relationships are, and like what her own relationships, how those are changing with her family. And then there's a couple of things that I really like about this. I've already mentioned the characters, but also the fan fiction that she's writing, you actually see it illustrated on the page. Sometimes it's a whole page, sometimes it's a whole spread. And I just really like the way that they've handled that. I think that it's really clever. This whole like story within a story, which is a fictional fan fiction of another story. Look, it's good, okay? And I do want to mention, like, for the most part, this is a very wholesome kind of YA early college story, but there is like a lot of anxiety. This character has a lot of anxiety, and her dad has some unnamed mental health issue where he goes on like week-long hyperfixations. So just warning for that kind of issue in this book. But I think that it's handled really sympathetically and nicely and well. So yeah, I highly recommend Fangirl.
I mean, who doesn't deal with that anxiety of like, do people like me, or are they just being polite, right?
Yep.
So,
Yep. Is my fan fiction good, or are people on the internet just being nice? Yeah.
Yeah.
Been there.
Who hasn't? All right. Well, Paloma, how are you, and how are comic books on your end?
I'm doing pretty dang great, Danny. It's summertime, so I'm just living the high life. And comics have also been stellar. Had a lot more time to catch up on some books I've been meaning to read, like That Texas Blood, Volume 1 and 2 by Chris Condon and Jacob Phillips from Image Comics. And I'm not typically a Western girly by any means, but like Jacob Phillips' art like really pulled me in. He also does New Burn by Chip Zdarsky, and I'm just such a fan of his work. And that Texas Blood I learned, we followed a 70-year-old sheriff named Joe Bob. I think it's set in Ambrose County.
Ambrose,
Don't quote me on
Texas.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And just a bunch of weird stuff, kind of like more on the tragic side of things goes down. It's like Joe Bob reflecting on past and present cases and wondering, is there like something sinister in the soil that's like bringing these kind of devastating cases to the area. And I loved it. I need more Western stuff, and I can't wait for volume 3. I liked following this old man way more than I thought I would. It's just really, really good stuff.
Yeah, I don't read a lot of Westerns either, but every once in a while, for some reason in comics specifically, I'll end up really enjoying a Western story. Still not in any other medium for the most part, though.
Yeah, right.
I feel like everyone on the show has at least grabbed one of these books once. Like, I think I go back and remember. And then even Mike talked about, like at the top of his pile last week was the Engfield Gang book, which is
Mm-hmm.
also related to this, but it's in the past, so you can kind of jump onto that one without catching up. I also want to catch up, so that's great to hear, Paloma, because I am also not a Western person usually, but sometimes they just hit real good.
Yeah. And then what about you, Danny? What have you been reading? How are you doing?
Well, I'm doing very well. Trying to survive the heat. Instead of West Michigan weather watch this week, I'm giving you that Texas weather watch instead. And let me tell you, it's just hot, like really hot.
that's that's the
As we
forecast.
were,
It's hot.
yeah, it's hot. It's gonna be hot. It's hot. It's been hot. It's gonna be hot for the rest of the week. Like we're talking 110 is gonna be our like high on one of these days. That's around like mid
Ooh.
40s for our rest of the world degrees, right? But man, yeah. So it's nice to stay indoors and read comics, and that's what I did. I wanted to stay in a cool state of mind, so I read Alien Thaw to bring some continuity to the show, because this was Tia's pick last week as well, and that's also something I want to read. This is by Declan Shalvey with art by Andrea Brocardo, Ruth Redmond in colors, and letters by Clayton Cowles. And of course, this is an Alien book, so you probably already know the story, but let me give you a quick synopsis. Talbot Engineering is under new management, and its chief scientist, Batiazan, will do just about anything to get her family out of the icy moon where they've been conducting research on water conservation, or have they? Because it's an alien book. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it. I really like it because like these alien stories, they still find a way to like add twists and turns and different things. There's a every time I watch like a new alien thing, like a movie or a comic, and they finally reveal like what are they called? The robots, whatever. I forget the name. That's how bad of an aliens fan I am. The synthetics. Every time that happens on any story, I'm like, oh, what? I didn't see that coming. It always blows my mind, and so this one also has a lot of really gruesome stuff because it's a xenomorph alien story as well. But Declan Shalvey is a fantastic writer. I like a lot of his stuff. I just got caught up on Old Dog as well from Image, so I really really enjoyed this one. I recommend it. I think this team is staying on for the next arc as well, which is going to be a completely different story. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. But I like alien books, so
Yeah.
and this one's about the cold. Uh, Kait, well, what else have you been reading?
Surprising no one. It's more manga. This is called Our Not So Lonely Planet Travel Guide, Volume 1 and 2. This is by Mone
Nice.
Sorai, and the translator was listed, and which was nice. And that is Katie Kimura. I actually read this on Hoopla. I know that we've got some manga apps to talk about later, but Hoopla has also started carrying manga, which is exciting. I'll talk more about that later. This series combines a lot of elements that I like to see in like kind of all of the media that I consume, which is like physical journeys, like relationship building, strong characters, these two in this story, two Japanese men are traveling the world together, and every chapter of this manga takes place in a different country or sometimes in like a transition phase between the two. And sometimes they speak some other languages. English and Italian has come up, but for the most part they're just finding locals who also speak some Japanese and like making some friends that way. And this is also like a little bit of a food manga. Like they have to try like a local dish everywhere that they go, and they get really into that. And this has the trope of like one of them is more of an extrovert and one of them's more of like an anxious introvert, but I'm fine with that. It's adorable. And they get one another to kind of step outside their comfort zones a little bit, and they usually have a good time. And then they're also together, they're dating, and they plan to get married. And I just love it. Like that's like not even the point of the manga. It's really not a romance manga at all, but I just love this little, like they have these little moments that are really cute together. And the first two volumes occasionally reference a health problem of the more introverted character. That was kind of, it seems like that was kind of the instigating factor that caused them to like plan their engagement and travel the world beforehand. But it hasn't actually detailed what that health problem was. So there's 4 volumes of this in Hoopla. I've read the first 2, and they haven't told me what happened to this guy yet.
Oh no.
So like I'm reading this story because I like the story, but also I'm like, I have to know. Is he okay now? Like he's clearly traveling, but will he be okay? So yeah, this is our not so lonely planet travel guide. It's slow and sweet, and I plan to read all of it.
Oh, very cool. Is it all on Hoopla? Like all the volumes are available there now?
I don't know if it's the whole thing, and I don't know if it's finished yet. But
Okay.
there's let's see here. The internet tells me that there are 4 volumes, and there are 4 volumes on Hoopla. So
Oh,
yeah, that's
Cool.
nice.
Now, Paloma, it sounded like you had read this before, or maybe a little heard of this before.
yeah, I'm a big fan of this series. I read up to volume 3, and it's just so wholesome. I really
Yeah.
like the art style and the expressions that the characters have, and I am a sucker for like golden retriever partner
Yeah.
and more anxious like Great Dane partner.
The analogy that I've been seeing online is you've got your golden retriever and your black cat
Oh
partner
yes.
mix. Yeah, it's
Well,
very cute.
as long as that food is drawn very deliciously, I think
Oh
that's
yeah.
Yeah.
always something to look forward to. That's usually my favorite part when they do like food stuff. I'm like, ooh, what is that? Even though I probably never ate it and maybe never will. I'm
Mhm.
like, ooh, what is that? That looks good.
Yeah, yeah. This raw fish looks amazing with the face still on it, and I'm like, I would never eat this in real life, but they're making it look great.
Yeah. Cool. Paloma, what else have you been reading?
I was waiting for the release of volume 9 of How Do We Relationship by Tamiful. I'm a big fan of this series. It takes place, we follow some college freshmen, excuse me, some college freshmen. They become fast friends and they find out they're both lesbians. So naturally, you're like, what are the chances? Let's start dating. And it's kind of like looking at this randomly started relationship. Maybe they're not as compatible as they thought, and then seeing how that relationship changes. And there's a ton of angst. There's so much angst, but it started off very funny. And volume 9 has a really good mix of pretty powerful emotions and characters reflecting on like being gay when they were in high school and maybe not having the best time, and then kind of like the power of friendship and just finding comfort in each other. And I was waiting for this to drop on the Viz app, which we'll talk about later. But yeah, I'm a big fan of the series. The art is really cute. I do think that sometimes I'm like, oh god, this is way too dramatic. And it's one of those series where, as like a 30-year-old adult, I'm like, girls, what if you just talked to each other about your feelings
Yeah.
and problems? So there's a lot of that frustration, but I'm in it for the long haul.
I mean, I can see that you're in volume 9. Has now going this far into a series, have you ever felt like the story kind of repeats itself, or maybe a little like have the characters truly evolved. Like I don't know how a relationship manga for 9 volumes seems like a lot, but I'm not a writer, so I don't know.
Yeah, I would say the relationship has evolved. Um, there was one volume, I'm gonna say maybe volume 6 or 7, where it took a turn where I was like, I don't know how we're gonna come back from this one. It was so bad, I thought about dropping it, and then like immediately the next volume, I was like, oh, okay, this is okay now.
Yeah. I know that
Okay,
Brian reads this too. He likes it.
all, all, all relationships have their rough patches, and I guess volume
Oh,
6 or 7 was yours. So,
yes.
well, I'm doing a very bad job as a host because in a manga episode, I didn't read any manga for the week.
Oh no.
Well, at least not,
Oh.
at
Pause,
least
come
not.
back later.
Yeah, right. At least nothing to talk about. That was only because there's been so many number one comics that I want to check out. Like it's ridiculous, especially, and this is for Mike, related to X-Men stuff and Fall of X. I read Alpha Flight #1. This is written by Ed Brisson with art by Scott Godlowski, colors by Matt Miller, and letters by Travis Lanham. In this book, we have the Alpha Flight team saving Canada from the mutant menace. Guardian, Puck, Snowbird, and Shaman return as a terrestrial Alpha Flight bursts onto the scene. But what schism will pit these heroes against their former teammates, Aurora, Northstar, Nemesis, and Fang. We'll talk about Fang in a minute because that's a new name for an old mutant you may know. So yeah, this is all coming out of the Hellfire Gala Fall of X. I wish I need to talk to Mike about that, and we haven't done so on the podcast, and I'm very frustrated because there's a lot to discuss. But I I rarely read Alpha Flight. I just don't find the team very interesting. But what brought me to this book was Ed Brisson. I like the stuff he's doing over at DC with Joker Incorporated and some of the other books that he's writing. And I was like, I'll give this a shot. You know, it's a #1. And oh boy, I was very, very surprised at how much I enjoyed this book, like about these characters, because it really feels like Alpha Flight. Like, so everyone's mad at mutants now, everyone on Earth, but this happens in Canada, and I'm like, okay, how does Canada react to all this? And of course, they put the Alpha Flight team on it, and I'm like, wait a minute, is Alpha Flight now like fighting for the fascists? What's happening here? This is not what I want in a book. But of course, there's so much more to the book than that, which I was very surprised. Also, I need to talk about Wolverine's kid Dakin, who is now going by Fang, and who's now wearing like this like full body onesie that the original Fang used to wear. Oh man, I'm gonna tweet out a picture whenever this comes out because people need to see this outfit. It is amazing. It looks so weird for Dakin to be wearing that. So, but I had a lot of a really good time reading this #1. It was hard to pick which #1 I was going to talk about on the show, but this one was very surprising. So I have one more book that I just want to touch on real quick. This one actually comes out next week. It's called The Schlub from Image Comics, written by Ryan Stegman and Kenny Porter with art by Tyrell Cannon, colors by Mike Spicer, and letters by John J. Hill. A failing dentist, Roy Dalton, blames the world for his problems until he's body swapped with the world's greatest superhero. Can Roger save the Earth and finally prove that he's not a loser, or is everyone doomed? So this is like Freaky Friday with superheroic stuff, and I am here for it. Uh, the book does a really fun job of like balancing the comedy of like the body swap and all the nonsense that's happening there, but still bring you like there's some superhero stuff that needs to happen, and some superhero stuff that can get very gritty and stuff. So it's a really weird it's a really weird mix, but I think it really works. Also, I think Ryan Stegman and Kenny Porter are both creators that I follow for a long time now. So I'm glad they're off doing something for themselves as they create their own book. So I really enjoyed this one. This one will be out if you're listening to this on the day of when it drops. It'll be out that Wednesday. So very much looking forward to seeing what people say about this one. But yeah, that's all I've read there. So I think we can take a quick break and then we'll come back, do the top of our pile, and then get into our main topic. Welcome back from the break. We will now be looking at what's on the top of our piles. First, to kind of change the order like Mike did last week, we're going to start with the Discord picks. So thanks to the folks listening live on the Discord and letting us know what you're reading. This week, Hannah's reading a bunch of stuff, and I'm going to let it slide because Mike's not here, so we can do whatever we want. The Return and Death of Superman, All-Star Superman, and Romans of the Three Kingdoms. That's a lot of Superman, which I'm on board with. And Simon's reading TMNT crossover with Stranger Things, which take two things that people like and smash them together. That's
Sounds
the comic
fun.
books way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Kait, what's on the top of your pile?
So I found this volume at a thrift store, which is very exciting. This is Flight Volume 2. This is an anthology edited by Kazu Kibuishi, and then it has a whole lot of creators, as anthologies do. This was actually published in 2007, so this came out like quite a while ago. And when I saw this sitting on a bookshelf in this giant 2-story thrift store in, gosh, Chelsea, Grass Lake, Michigan. There we go. I was out with my family. We were like my folks and my brother. We were just kind of wandering around the small towns as we do, stopping into thrift stores as we do, finding the book section. And I found the one graphic novel in the entire store, which was this. And I was like, Flight, that sounds familiar. Well, it turns out that Volume 1 has been on my to-read list for years. And they did not have Volume 1, but it's an anthology, so I think that it's probably okay that I skipped to Volume 2. And this entire book is about, like, it's around the theme of flight and the different ways that people interpret that and choose to tell stories about that. And just flipping through this, I'm seeing a lot of like sci-fi style art, so I'm expecting quite a bit of sci-fi, but based on reading the description online a little bit, there might be some nonfiction here too. So I'm excited to see how people have interpreted the theme for this anthology. And also, Volume 2 actually has better reviews, like glowing reviews, in comparison to Volume 1, which also is reviewed well, but like a couple points lower. 3.8 on Volume 1, 4.2 on Volume 2. So that's a little bit of a spread. It seems like I got the better one by happenstance. And I don't read a lot of anthologies, but man, like finding this in the middle of nowhere in Michigan, yeah, I'm pretty excited that I found this book.
Yeah, that sounds neat. Macklemore never talked about comic books when he went thrift shopping. A very specific reference there.
Yeah.
But I feel like I've heard of this anthology before. Maybe somebody on the show might have talked about it or something else. Maybe they talked about the first volume, and that's why we don't remember it as much.
Yeah,
because it's not as exciting as the second one. So you'll have to let us know.
Yeah, it's
what you
big
thought.
too. There's a lot of pages in this book, so it might take me a minute.
Okay, good. Getting bang for your buck there at the thrift shop.
My 50-cent book. Yeah.
That's good return on investment.
Yeah.
Paloma, what about you? What's on the top of your pile?
Well, this book comes out Wednesday, and it is Dark Knights of Steel, issue number 12, the final part to this epic saga by Tom Taylor, writer. And then the last few issues, including issue 12, has been drawn by Yasmin Putri. And the first several issues of this series like rocked my world. Issue 1 came out in November 2nd of 2021. For context, everybody, we are now August something of 2023, and the series admittedly lost steam just because there was some major delays, and I forgot things as one does, and I was too lazy to reread, but I'm excited for this finale just to see how it all wraps up. The last like issues 10 and 11 I felt like were very fast. Don't know if I'm using that as a negative or just as a neutral, but we'll see how this wraps up. I'm very excited for that.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of this book as well. This series is so weird because publication wise, too, like Paloma mentioned. But like they released 3 issues, and then they released an issue collecting those 3 issues,
Mm-hmm.
and then they did more. So like they were really biding their time, and like Paloma mentioned, Jasmine Putri, I think Jasmine started the art, and then they had fill-in artists, and then Jasmine came back. So like there's probably been so much happening with this book. But I'm looking forward to the last issue as well, because I think the idea of a DC universe in the medieval times is just really fun, and Tom Taylor
Mm-hmm.
knows how to play with those Elseworlds type of stories very well. So very excited to read the book, and then also to hear what you have to say about it, Paloma. If it was worth the wait a
Yeah.
year and a half afterwards. Um, okay, well, for my top of the pile, I'm also reading FNLE, but also kind of a beginning. So I'm reading I'm reading Daredevil 1 through 14. This is the last version of Daredevil, written by Chip Zdarsky with art by Marco Cicchetto, colors by Matthew Wilson, and letters by Clayton Cowles. I'm picking up after Devil's Reign. So after that event, I took a break because I knew Zdarsky was approaching the last of the story he was trying to tell with Daredevil. So I was like, I'm just gonna wait. I'll read everything at once. There's also this book also crosses over with Jason Aaron's Punisher, so that should be pretty fun to see Daredevil and the Punisher kind of work together, or maybe fight each other. I don't know. I don't know exactly how that's gonna go. But Zdarsky's run so far has been amazing. Like any book that Zdarsky's writing, I'll definitely recommend. But this one just really worked very well. I feel like he had a whole plan going in, and fortunately, not a lot of things changed editorially for him, because that's sometimes what gets in the way of a good run. Marvel's editorial, like, oh, we got this crossover, or we got this event that needs to happen. So luckily, Daredevil was not involved in any of that stuff, from what I can remember. So very excited for this one. I know a lot of people are out there already putting spoilers, so be careful if you haven't caught up on Daredevil, because man, the internet is not forgiving when it comes to telling you what just happened on comic books.
Yeah.
Dang.
So before our main topic, I want to remind everyone to make sure to check us out on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Discord, Goodreads. We don't use Twitter as much now because the website's burning up or whatever. But we're also we're also on YouTube, and you can also support us on Patreon at patreon.com/IRCB podcast. But now let's get into our main topic. So we were talking about this topic a little while ago about like there's all these new apps where we can read manga, and we kind of want to compare them and tell you a little bit about our experiences with them, so maybe you can decide which one best suits your manga needs. I feel like everyone has different manga needs, so why don't we get started? Well, let's talk a little bit about our experience with some of these first, and then we'll get into more specifics on each app. So Kate, you want to kick us off with some of the ones that you use and stuff like that?
Yeah. So actually didn't read comics on apps for a long time, and what got me into it was actually the release of the K Manga app. This is Kodansha's app that released, I think, back in May. And then since then, I've kind of been checking out the other ones very slowly. So most of my experiences with K Manga, I pretty much am on there every day, at least to like log in, collect my free ticket thing that I'll dig into. And then I've also checked out Viz and Shonen Jump, which are very similar, both from the same publisher, just have like slightly different catalogs. And I've only read a few things on there, trying to figure out like, do I really need both of these apps on my tablet mostly? And then since these apps have been putting out, or these publishers have been putting out their own apps, I also logged into Hoopla the other day to try to download some things before I went on a trip, and I realized that Hoopla has an entire manga section now, most of which is from the publisher Tokyo Pop. And I feel like that is makes it really accessible for people that don't want another app or don't read a lot of manga. I had like 9 checkouts available from my library for Hoopla, so I read 9 volumes of manga for free this month through that. So Hoopla also has a good reader that I'll dig into a little later because it's not perfect. But that's what my experience is.
Cool. Paloma, how about you? What's your experience with these manga apps? How'd you get on them?
I think 2 years ago, I wanted to just finish Demon Slayer, And so I got into the Shonen Jump app. At the time, who can resist a $1.99 subscription on
Yeah.
your phone? And it was just, once you get that subscription, you can binge pretty much everything. I wasn't looking to get caught up necessarily on any ongoing series, but then that, of course, happens eventually. So that one's been my main one. And then in May, a day before the K Manga app, Viz decided to be quite cheeky, and they released their new app a day before Kodansha released theirs. And this one has a lot more variety of stuff. It has some shoujos, has some Junji Ito stuff, still some shonen, and then a bunch of other like prolific creators. So I got that, and I've been digging it. Oh, it has Nana on there, so that's a pretty big deal. And I think before the Viz one, I got this one called Manga Plus, which seems Viz or Shueisha related. And I just got it because I saw someone on Twitter recommend a manga. They're like, I can't wait for these weekly chapters. And I was like, I've never seen that in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, same. Cool. Well, let me tell you a quick story. A long time ago, I used to subscribe to the physical version of the Shonen Jump app. So I
Wow.
was a, and I only mainly did it because I wanted the Yu-Gi-Oh card promos that came on there every once in a while.
It's the best
It,
reason.
it had nothing to do with me reading manga. And then a little while after, like this is all way before these apps were even available. But then I did get into manga. I started reading some through many devious ways because I didn't know how to legally read like manga,
Mm-hmm.
which is wild to think about that now. So when they announced that you could get some apps like Shonen Jump, especially at the like Paloma mentioned, $1.99, or I think I did the $25 a year the first time
Mm.
they announced it, and I was like, that's such a good deal. Like if I could have spent $25 a long time, that's what the subscription used to cost to the magazine, for the
Oh.
yearly stuff,
Wow.
and they would send it to your house. So it's kind of it's a trimmed down version of what you get in Japan, because you don't get all the manga. I guess they don't translate all of them maybe. So, but yeah, it was really kind of neat to go back and catch up on that. I've also used the Comixology Unlimited for some of their manga. My big complaint there is that sometimes their lettering looks like it wasn't done by. It's not as high a quality, I'll say, as the lettering in some of the other apps. I
Yeah.
don't want. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus or like crap on their work. But yeah, now I have pretty much all the other ones as well. So let's dig down a little bit more individually into some of these. So, Paloma, you have some details. Can you get us kicked off with the Shonen Jump app?
Yeah, so the Shonen Jump app now, it's $2.99 a month. It raises a little. I still think that's a really great
Inflation, am I
price.
right? Yeah.
Inflation. And so I use this series, or this app, excuse me, like at least once a week, multiple times a week, to keep up on my regular like weekly shonen drops like Jujutsu Kaisen, Sakamoto Days, Chainsaw Man, and some of the big ones I just named, like Jujutsu Kaisen, Sakamoto Days. Those drop on Sundays, so I'm at 11 a.m. Get my little coffee ready, go through and catch up. And Chainsaw Man comes out on Tuesdays, maybe. And what's cool about the app is that it lets you know how many days until the next chapter. So if there's going to be like a 2 week break, or like they're going on a hiatus, kind of, they'll let you know, which I think is really awesome and really easy to read. It You're swiping as if you're reading a manga, right to left, question mark.
Mm-hmm.
Great for screenshots. Get a lot of good reaction images. And I would say there's like a good variety. It's all shonen, so keep that in mind. It's all kind of like aimed at like teen boys. Most of the characters are boys. So sometimes it gets quite derivative and boring, in my opinion, what they have to offer, because I'm not, even though they have a variety of like Haikyuu, and then you have your like Demon Slayer. There could be more girl stuff, in my opinion, but again, it's Shonen Jump. I know what I'm signing up for.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Kate, have you used the Shonen Jump app? Are you a fan?
I only used it for like long enough to go through. Okay, so I do have to say that Shonen Jump and Viz have probably like the best UI user interface in my opinion. It's like it's really easy to browse, which is a big thing that I
Mhm.
feel like I'm missing in a lot of the other apps. Is just the ease of browsing, jumping to like everything that starts with L, and you can just like favorite stuff as you're browsing. You don't have to like get into a series view or anything. So what I did is I went through Shonen Jump and I favorited all the things I thought I was interested in, and then that's like that saved when I opened the Viz app. I could see if they had the same thing. It was already favorited. So I kind of took some time and I went through and I figured out what Shonen Jump had that Viz didn't have, and it was like two short series, and so I read those and then deleted Shonen Jump. So sorry, Shonen Jump, but Viz has more my speed.
That's fair. Way to save $1 too.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool. Well, I mean, to kind of build off of that, I also use mainly the Shonen Jump app, and it's because a lot of the stuff we talked about. I really like the iOS interface because I either use it on my iPhone or my iPad, and they both look great. To
Hmm.
Paloma's point, um, when I'm doing so right now, I'm currently watching the anime Bleach Thousand Year Blood War arc, and I like
Wow.
to go back. I like to watch the episode on Hulu when it drops, and then go to the Shonen Jump app and check out like, oh, what chapters are they covering, like, and take a look at some of the key visuals and stuff, like, just try to see how the adaptation it looks for, compared to the anime, which I'm very excited. So I'm kind of rereading Bleach as the anime goes, and monthly I usually read, or weekly I read Dragon Ball Super, which that one's a monthly one, so that one's a little hard to keep up with. Boruto is also monthly. Akane Abashi is one of the ones that kind of came out of nowhere, and
Oh
I
yeah.
really really enjoyed it. I don't know if that's in both apps. That seems like it would be. You guys can tell me more because I don't use the Viz app a lot. And then Kaiju number 8, which is one that I started with from the ground floor. I read it every week. I'm a little behind, but I read it almost every week, and then I do go by and collect the physical release when it's out. But yeah, I really like the Shonen Jump app. It's geared at for sure like the stuff I like because I'm a big fan of the shonen stuff. Although now that I've talked to more manga with you guys, like I see like, oh, this also sounds fun and it's not shonen and I can also go read it. So speaking of that, let's talk about the Viz app. Now, Paloma, I'm gonna throw it back to you because you did such a good job on the notes with some of these details. How can you tell us a little bit about the Viz app?
Yeah, so the Viz app again just dropped in May probably. I did not fact check that. $1.99 a month. That's pretty sick. And it feels like there's more. Again, there's like iconic shoujo series like Nana. You got Junji Ito works on there. It's like Master of Horror Junji Ito, which is a pretty big deal. Then you kind of have, I don't know what to categorize, Tayumatsu Moto's work, the creator of like Sunny and Ping Pong. So you have like this other prolific artist, and they do spotlights. I am just now remembering they have a huge body of Rumiko Takahashi works, the creator of like Inuyasha and Ranma One Half. So if you like manga, you can now read it digitally, and maybe you just hadn't had access to it before, or if you're just looking to see what manga has to offer, you have like a huge catalog of these like prolific creators, which I think is awesome. And the Viz app also will release like, I don't know if any of the series on there are weekly, but they'll release new chapters of ongoing series like Comey Can't Communicate, Call of the Night. Um, what I found personally to be a great offense towards me was that they had like current chapters of How Do We Relationship, which I've been following, but they were missing a huge chunk of the back catalog. And I think
Mm.
their back catalog just reflects what manga has been released physically to US audiences. And I found that egregious. I know there's a lot that they have to put on there.
How dare
Um,
they?
I know I'm like, why would I read the 5 current chapters? But I have 3 volumes I'm behind on. I did read the current chapters. I'm not gonna lie, I did that. But besides that, I do think that Viz has a lot of promise, and maybe they'll change, speculation only, maybe they'll change that up and just throw on the whole back catalog. I don't know what their marketing ploy is, but I really like the app.
Cool. Kait, you would want to tell us a bit more about your experience with this one, since it seems that this is your preferred app between Viz and Shonen.
Yeah, they just have like Paloma said, they just have a Shonen Jump on the Shonen Jump app, and I like a wider variety of genre, I guess, in my apps, in my manga, and I don't really understand what they've chosen to put on the Viz app in comparison to the Shonen Jump app, because it definitely seems like they could put all of Shonen Jump on there and then just have one app. I don't really understand the decision making, but it is cheaper. So it's only $1.99 a month right now, and it's got more of what I would like to read on there. I guess in terms of like something that I suggest that you check out would be like Goodbye Eri by Tatsuki Fujimoto, which I wanted to take a minute because this has been out for like digitally, it's been out for a year or two, but they just did an English print edition, and it made it onto the bestseller list of the New York Times for graphic novels. So that was super exciting to see because I read it before it was printed. So that was I really enjoyed that story. So
yeah, everyone else that's reading it now is just a poser.
Yeah. I knew it before. It was cool.
Very nice. Well, I also checked this one out when it came out. Which, can we talk about, like, I'm here for the pettiness of dropping your app a day before your competitor does it without any warning, because I don't think, like, I don't stay up to date in all this, but I knew the K Manga app was dropping, but I don't think anyone knew that Viz was dropping an app or a second app.
I didn't know, yeah.
Which I'm on board with. I'm here for that drama because I could use the distraction.
The tea, the manga tea,
sure. Manga tea. I don't use it a lot, but I have checked out Zom 100 Bucket List of the Dead, which the big problem is that I'll check out an anime or a manga like that, and then the anime just drop, and I'm like, well, I could just watch it. I don't know, like I don't want to read it and spoil myself and then watch the manga, because usually I'll watch an anime and then go back. I did have an issue with this one where it says that a lot of volumes are available, but then when you click on them, like, you can't go and find where the chapters would be. Like, they don't have. It feels like they're just selling you the volumes if you want them, but they're not selling you, or they're not letting you read the actual manga. I found this with Rooster Fighter, which I was looking for because I bought the first volume of that physically, and I liked it, and I haven't gone to pick up the second one. So I just wanted to read it for this, and I was like, oh no, the Rooster Fighter's not on here. Like, I can see the volumes, but I have to pay for them, which I want to pay for my manga, but not too much, right? If we have a subscription service. All right, let's move on to the next one. I want to talk about, I guess, Paloma, you want to tell us about Manga Plus, since it seems you're the only one that kind of has gone on to this one.
Yeah, so I saw someone on Twitter just be like, I love the new update for You and I Are Polar Opposites. And I was like, I've never heard of this. I've never heard of this manga in my life, but someone is reading it on some app. So then I went to my app store. It was a free app. This is the rare, to my knowledge, totally free app to read updates and then some certain back catalogs. It looked fake and scammy to me, but it's been real.
Oh no.
It's been very real. It has cool stuff that isn't being serialized on any of the apps we've mentioned yet. Like, You and I Are Polar Opposites. There's this one that I'm reading called Blooming Love. Those are the only 2 ones that I'm reading on this app. But it updates weekly for like Sakamoto Days, Jutsu Kaisen, One Piece, Akane Banashi, and it has some back catalogs of Dandadan, which is a series that I really like, that I think we have 3 or 4 volumes out in the US, and they have a back catalog, but my understanding is you can only read the old chapters like once. I've been too scared to try it.
Yeah, like, oh, I don't want to miss it and then not be able to read it.
Yeah. But I like it so far. Some things do have different names. I feel like they call Kaiju number 8 something else on this app, which
Hmm.
I thought was interesting. But this one does have a lot of variety. Probably the back catalog is not as like significant or well-rounded as like Shonen Jump or even Viz, and it's mostly going to be in the shonen seinen genre besides these couple romance ones I've mentioned. But I like it.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I mean, other than it sounding like it's a made up app, because
Yeah.
that was really funny. Like, I don't know if it's real, but we're gonna try it out because I want to read manga.
Mm-hmm.
Who hasn't gone down that rabbit hole of like,
Right.
I need to get my hands on this content, so let's just check it out.
My
Exactly.
identity might be stolen, but it's worth it.
Yeah, right. I need the next chapter. All right. Now, Kate, I'm gonna throw it over to you. Can you tell us about the K manga? Because I feel like, well, if you listeners of the show, you've read or you've already heard how much Kate has gone in there and taken
Yeah.
advantage of this app. So tell us a little bit more about this one.
Yeah, okay. So this is K manga from Kodansha, and it's got this weird ticketing points or free to read like hierarchy of content that's really like I'm annoyed about it. Like it's like kind of pedantic. I'm like you got to like work the system right and but at the same time I'm also on it every day because I want you log on, you get your one free ticket and then also like you can watch ads to unlock more points or more free tickets. And I feel like the longer that I've been on it and the more that I've checked it, the more free tickets I'm getting. And then when you go to a series, usually the first volume in the series is just free to read. No, like you don't have to do anything, you don't have to spend anything. And then like most of the rest of the series, you have to unlock it with those tickets that you earn every day. And then I've noticed consistently that the last volume of every series is you have to unlock it with your points that you either earn or buy with real money. Real money. And I've pretty much exclusively been looking at the completed series because I realized that I'm like I read all of Attack on Titan in like 2-3 months or something. So like I'm kind of burning through manga on this app, and so I'm looking at completed titles. And yeah, that's pretty consistent. You start with free, you go to tickets, you have to end with real money or points. And I feel like that's a workable system if you're going to read a little bit every day and you're fine with just like a couple chapters or a single volume. But like I know that like Renee will sit down and read all of the 100 chapters that you can read on the Viz app in a day, no problem. And that's I don't read quite that prolifically. So the kind of limit inherent in this system is it's okay for me. I've figured out how it works and I can make it work for me. The nice thing is that if you do use a ticket to unlock something, it's available for 72 hours. So you've got a couple days to read it or to reread it, in my case, a few times. And then if you do unlock things with points, then you've purchased those. Those are yours. They will always stay in your library. There's like this kind of gray area though. Like I don't understand if you read something, if you read most of a series on tickets, you have to use tickets if you want to reread it again unless you just want to reread your last volume that you've purchased again. So there's like this weird gray area about it.
I'm waiting for you to tell me that you have to invite 2 or 3 friends to
Yeah.
try out the K manga app to like
You,
to get more manga.
maybe I haven't gotten there yet. If so, there's probably some kind of benefit to recommending users. I do have to say that the swiping right to left works just fine. It's built for this. That works well. Um, I feel like my volumes list, I'm sorry, my favorited list, you can favorite things pretty easily and it'll save them for you, but it doesn't alphabetize them or order them in any particular way, so that's weird. Um, but it does encourage you to try new chapters because you can get points for reading like a recommended daily chapter of something. So I've definitely tried some things that I would not have tried otherwise.
Sounds like the Wild West over there with this app.
It is. I feel like I'm complaining about this as much as I'm like, okay, manga gets me to read more manga, but also.
Paloma, have you used this one?
I downloaded the app. I'm prepped for the episode, and I admittedly have not even, I don't even know where to begin. It does have a really nice variety of things. A lot of it I've never heard of, and then it has like the hottest stuff right now, like Tokyo Revengers and Blue Lock, for example. So that's cool to see, like that folks can be current on that. But no, the ticket stuff, I just don't want to be told. I don't want to follow the system. I wanted to read at my own terms. But I do like that they have, like, Kodansha has something right now because they do put out a lot of great work. I'm curious about the bunny mascot. I'd like to know more about them. There's a pink bunny on the app.
Yeah.
Unless I have the wrong app.
Yeah.
That was.
There's a pink bunny?
You're right.
Okay.
The branding for this app is so weird because when I tried it, it really felt like I just really felt like, man, I think I'm too old for this one because of the ticketing, like the ticketing thing and the points and the gamification of the app. And I'm like, I left this back when I stopped playing Farmville. All right, I'm not doing this again. But there's, to y'all's point, there's a lot of titles that I do like. Like I love Attack on Titan and Blue Lock, Fire Force, Parasite.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's good stuff in there, but I think for these titles, I rather just buy them. I bought a lot of Kodansha manga through like Humble Bundles, so I already have a lot of the stuff that I want from there. And then also from Comixology when they used to put. I don't know if they still do. Because I bought so many Humble Bundles, I haven't even checked. And then Blue Lock, I buy that one physically, so I try not to double dip for some of that stuff. Let's see. Let's talk a little bit about Hoopla. And I guess I should have mentioned this. We're all in the US, so I don't know if any of these apps work in the rest of the world.
Yeah.
So we apologize for that. So we're just giving you our because I know Hoopla is definitely a US based because it works through our library system.
Mm-hmm.
But Kait, do you want to tell us a little bit about what you've been reading in Hoopla and how that works?
Yeah, so I'm sure that if people have listened to this podcast for a while, you'll have heard us talk about Hoopla. It's something that libraries could subscribe to, and Hoopla has its own, it kind of works like its own independent library system, where it has its own giant collection of things. Every library's Hoopla is going to be the same as the next library's Hoopla. But libraries do have to pay quite a lot of money for this service. So if like every library is going to have a limit as to how many checkouts you get as a user per month, and then they're also going to have a limit as how many checkouts can happen within their system in a day. So if you want to read something on Hoopla, you kind of have to get on there early in the day and check it out, because when my library started subscribing to it, I would like start getting ready for bed 9 p.m., go to check out something from Hoopla to read real quick, and they're gone. They're done for the day. There's no more checkouts left. So
closed.
Yeah, so it depends on your library, but otherwise it's really good because there's a ton on it, and not just comics. So when I started reading more digitally, I went to check out probably just something from like Image or Boom on Hoopla to go on vacation, and I noticed that there was an entire new manga section, and I dug into that a bit, and it's mostly from the Tokyo Pop publisher. So this they do have a good reader. Like I don't want to discourage people from reading on Hoopla because their display is really good. They have clearly like put some time into making this a good comics reader, except that manga reads right to left, and they seem to be aware of this because there is like a message when you go to check out Hoopla that it's going to read right to left, but then you open it and about like half of them actually swipe the right way, and sometimes it's in the same series, like volume 1 of my travel manga swiped the correct direction, and then volume 2 didn't.
Wow.
Yeah.
Does it do the guided view on the manga?
It will. I guess I haven't tested it because I like reading things like full page, but I have like double tapped an accident and it will open guide and view. So
Interesting, because sometimes the guided view on Hoopla, like they'll zoom in a lot for just a little piece of dialogue and then zoom back out.
yeah,
Which
yeah, and they're
interesting.
they do have like a favorites system that is a little I have a lot of things favorited, so it's disorganized because of my personal usage. But and then they've got a browsing system that I also don't think is alphabetized, but it's easy to use. And like when you start searching things, it comes up automatically if it's in there. So and if it doesn't, if it's not in there and you type something in, it will bring up similar things, which is pretty nice. So yeah, it's pretty good in my opinion, especially for being a library system.
Very cool. Yeah, I love Hoopla. Once I found it, I was like, oh, there's no going back. And
Yeah,
sometimes I feel weird about using a borrow for just like a single issue, but I'm like, well, if I don't get to it, then I'm just not gonna read it. So
yeah, they only have manga volumes on here. They don't have individual
okay,
chapters, so it's definitely worth your checkout.
here's 10 pages. Enjoy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be awful. One of my 9 borrows for 10 pages.
All right. Is there anything else we need to talk about some of these apps? Have you guys? I mean, I feel like we all kind of have our favorite from the conversation.
Yeah,
And
what are you guys reading on? Like, how new are your devices?
I have whatever the latest iPad model is because
Okay.
I use it for drawing, so I usually upgrade whenever it comes out.
I have an iPhone 13 mini. I do most of my reading on my app reading on my phone for not
Wow.
Hoopla. I'll use my iPad, but for my manga,
Okay.
I used my phone.
I've got an older model Android tablet, and sometimes there's a little bit of a lag on opening something, but once it's open, it works perfectly fine. I think it's like a Tab E. It's like 3 or 4 years old. So.
Oh, nice. Okay. Well, let's say our favorite app before we close out, so we can tell everybody.
Oh no.
And then maybe throw out a recommendation of what like if you want somebody to read on that app. So I'm gonna start with you first, Kate, just because I think it'd be funnier this way.
This is hard. Like, because okay, so for like the better value, easier to use app, I'm gonna say it's probably Hoopla. And the Not So Lonely Planet Travel Guide is what I've been reading, but also like the Fox and Little Tanuki is a cute series that's pretty good also, and there's a lot of that on there. But I've been the K Manga app has sold me for getting me to read every day. So I think my next read on that is probably going to be Perfect World, which
Very
is a
cool.
nice little romance story.
All right, Paloma, what about you?
I think ultimately I have to recommend the Viz Manga app. You can't beat that price point for the variety of works. And I'm going to recommend Insomniacs After School, even though you can't binge it yet, but it's a really good series.
All right. Well, I think it's very clear that I prefer the Shonen Jump apps. That's the one that I use the most. And I'm gonna recommend Kaiju number 8 because it's a beautiful looking manga. And I'm a little concerned that they are now adapting it to an anime, and I hope that doesn't make me stop reading it. But I'm so far ahead that I think I'll just keep going because it'll be like 2 completely different stories. So there you have it, folks. Reach out to us on all the social media. Let us know what you're reading on these apps and which one's your favorite. Feel free to send Mike an email. I'm sure that'll be the emails on the notes somewhere for the episode. I know he loves emails. And tell Mike not only what your
IRCBpodcast at gmail.com.
Yeah, and tell Mike, I think that's it, but tell Mike not only what your favorite manga to read is, so he can also read it. And let him know what a good job we did without him on this episode. Next week's topic, you will have Mike back. You will also have Paloma back and Nick, and we will have a commissioned episode, Opposable Plagiarism, whatever that means. I'm not on that episode, so I haven't looked into it, but I'm looking forward to hearing everybody talk about this. Infinish Red is the best. They do our music. Zander will invite you to watch anime if you're cool. Thank you, everyone. I want to thank Kate. I want to thank Paloma. And of course, I want to thank Kara, who's proof listening this episode. And until next time, comics are good, and so are you.